everyone. Welcome back to the Builders Bench podcast, brought to you by Seabuilt, and thanks again to our great sponsors, Earthlift Excavation. As I said, they've come on board for the next 3 episodes, so thank you again for them. Today we've got a very special guest and well-known real estate agent, Peter Kleeman from Morrison Kleeman, and I'd like to say Alana. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
You did well there. You played that one smartly and got in there with Peter, so
I did.
well done. And
I don't know how you dragged me in.
yeah, Peter, Alana, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Peter, I've known Morrison Kleeman. I grew up in the Greensboro and Eltham area. I've known Morrison Kleeman for years. I've known the name. As a kid, you got no idea what the name represents, but eventually you find that out. We got chatting prior to coming on the podcast, and I actually mentioned that I grew up in a Fred Hodge built home, and I mentioned the area and where it was, and you're quite familiar with those areas. So what we'll do is we're going to go we're going to go through how Morrison Kleeman actually started, who you started with, when it was started, and then we'll go and dip into sort of the houses and sort of developments that you've actually sold in the past. It definitely, because I know a lot of builders that have been in the area and have built in that area, and we always talk about Fred Hodge Homes. Fred Hodge was a big builder back then, and just interesting the types of homes and the actual designs of the homes as well. When did you start Morrison Kleeman? Who did you start it with?
So Graham Morrison and I, we started back in 91.
Yep.
Just the two of us. We had an idea, wanted to do something a bit different ourselves. We didn't have a business plan or anything like that. We just thought we could do something better to where we were. And so we set up a business. It was back in 91 where interest rates was going up pretty high. I remember I was waiting on a call, and they had a message on hold, or actually a radio talk back. It was all talk back about people going broke and all that. And I've just left my good job, and we're starting a new business. I'm thinking, what have I done?
What have I done?
And but we had some really good advice. Graham had some really good contacts. We went to this graphic designer who we didn't know who he was, but he's one of the top graphic designers in Australia, and designed our artwork and logo, which gave us something a bit different in our marketing. So what was great for us was our market was more edgy, a bit different, and really got the attention, because in those days the local paper was all we advertised in. So that was a message to our
and
audience.
it's always been called Morrison Kleeman Real Estate Agents?
Well, actually, when the business started, it was Morrison's.
And
then I got my licence, and then we changed it to Morrison Kleeman. So
right.
Graham's been a great partner over those years, and so he's been a great friend and business partner.
So what inspired you back then as you said, it was just before it was late 80s, early 90s recession, and I just had another guest on prior to this, Dom, and he mentioned the same thing, lost all his work basically overnight.
Yep.
So when you first started, it was prior to that recession. What inspired you to actually get into real estate?
Well, back in 86, actually when I was back in 74, when I finished school, actually failed school, so I had to get a job, and I wanted to go into real estate, but I couldn't do the course, so I got a job in the car industry. So I was a cadet car salesman for Preston Motors, and those days, my apprenticeship was screwing on number plates, getting lunches, driving L34 Tiranas. It was a great gig. But
I've heard that it was quite good back then, selling cars.
And then at 19, I was made a new car salesman, and I moved out to Eltham back in 81. And I knew this real estate agent called Ian Reid, and he said, you can do really well in real estate. I had 2 kids, under 2, a mortgage, and never owned a car because I'd always had a company car. And so I went in the deep end, and I went into real estate in 86, and the first 3 months was really tough, because
it was tough.
In those days there's the phone, there's the desk, good luck. That was the training we had. But I was working with top agents, and Graham and I started to build a friendship, and he was very helpful and gave me some guidance.
And so, Ian, when you say Ian Reid, that was Ian Reid Real Estate Agents, correct. Is that right? And then it went to, if I'm right, Ian Reid...
Vendor Advocates.
Vendor Advocacy. So now is Ian Reid still operating? He's still out there?
I think
doing
his son runs the advocacy business. I think Ian's retired now, but it certainly was a great learning curve for us. And Graham and I then started in '91, and we thought we could do something a bit different. And also we thought if we could make it now, as the market was getting tougher, we can make it any time, because people still got to buy and sell. And even as the market changed, and we noticed when we first started, the building industry was still quite busy. Then all the contracts are drying up, but people still had to sell, whether it's because of a job transfer or personal reasons, or financial reasons. But the numbers might change, and you had to adapt to the changing market. So that was.
And that's one of the things that Alana, I'll get you probably to answer some of those questions. We'll finish these ones first, but as I said before, the Greensboro and St Helena areas, prominently, what builders were building those homes around there, and you can really pick apart those houses. You've got the gables at the front, the weatherboards on the actual pitch of the gable, and maybe some gable windows and stuff like that. Who were the biggest builders out there, or the most well-known builders out there? We did mention Fred Hodge, but there were others.
The main builders were, and in those days, there was a lot of subdivisions going around Eltham, St Helena, Eltham North, and those areas. And blocks of land were selling for $46,000-$60,000 a block, and there was different terms for builders, and builders would buy 5 or 6 or 8 blocks. And
on builders' terms.
Yeah, builders' terms. The biggest builders like Wernooka Homes, Fred Hodges, Career Homes, Woodbine Homes, Parkville Homes. There was a large selection of builders, and builders would buy these blocks, and then they would come up with a design and would pass it around to the different agencies, and we would then work our buyers and show them the block of land and see if they liked it, then obviously show them the plan if it hadn't started. It was a lot harder to sell off the grass, but if we had a good meeting with the builder first, then with the architect, and it all came together that way.
So I will say, like in Eltham, my dad actually lived in a unit complex in Eltham, and it was actually quite a beautiful, well-built. There's 5 units there, or 6 units, and that builder actually went under because the recession had hit right at that stage. And if you had have built that nowadays, then it would just be an absolute. The houses were so well built back then. I will say even Fred Hodge, and they're all subfloors, the OB timber. But how do you think, I'll go on to, also Alana, you could probably help out answering this. How do you think real estate has changed from back then to now? Like we were talking about it just before the podcast in terms of like client interaction, like the face-to-face. I like the face-to-face dealings, as you know, Alana. And I'll say that I've worked with Alana in the past, and she's really good. She's the same. She's more face-to-face. But there's a lot of social media and sort of behind, I don't know, the face-to-face interactions has sort of lost its way these days. How is Morrison Kleeman sort of finding that sweet spot to go, righto, we need to get the vendor on side, and gain their trust and make sure they're comfortable with dealing with us. But finding that sweet spot of using social media, and all the things that come along with it, or like text and stuff like that, and actually meeting face-to-face and dealings face-to-face.
I think it's how you use social media in real estate. I think it's not about, social media is about the vendor's home. That's the most important part. It's really not about us individual agents. So I feel like I'm very old school because I've been in real estate for 20 years, and as Peter said, when I first started working in the Diamond Valley, I got given a phone and pretty much a phone book and was just like, start making calls. So I've grown up knowing real estate as what we call the olden days, because I've been doing it for 20-something years. So it's adjusting now to how the world is moving forward with social media and trying to be the front of that. But I also feel like that you've got to sort of work with the old demographic as well as the younger demographic.
That's right.
So
as Peter said,
with how you're going to do your real estate. But I look at Doreen, and Doreen, I used to live here for 11 years, And it has changed a lot since the last 4 years that I've, moved back into the Diamond Valley. But there is still that older demographic here, as well as the young that's coming through. So I'm a very face-to-face person, and I feel like you've still got to have that connection doing what we do on a daily basis instead of just hiding behind a phone.
Yeah, like as Peter said, when he started, it was a phone book and a phone, and that was it, go for your life.
Yeah.
And dealing with buyers was different, because we used to make an appointment with buyers and then spend all day driving around in a car showing them different options. Where today buyers are so well researched because the technology, people don't have time. They want to know the floor plans, the price, the information. They want everything before they speak to you. And they probably do all that research 6 months before they even talk to you. Where in our day, it was our job to educate them. And so we would, they might inquire on an established home, and then they said this wasn't quite right. What about a new home? And then we referred them to some land, then to a builder, architect, and put it all together. But we had that connection. We started to build trust with a client and guide them through that process.
Yeah, interesting. So, and you did mention land. So you sold land in the past.
Yeah, yes. Well, lands were selling. We're doing auctions, land auctions. They were selling around $40,000-$50,000. Acreage properties in Lower Plenty, $100,000-$200,000.
Wow.
Back in
so
the 80s.
what's the most that you think the viewers would recognise, or area that you'd recognise, or development that they'd recognise that would just sort of blow you away in terms of real estate or prime sort of location that you go, it'd be $1 million plus today?
Well, say areas like Parry Road and Eltham North, in that area, we were selling those blocks back in around late 80s for around $46,000, $60,000. In areas in Lower Plenty like Palomino, and those big acreage properties where there's $4 or $5 million homes, blocks of land were selling around $200,000 there.
Wow!
So so there's a big change, and the good thing about this area, there's such a cross section of homes and price ranges, and that's one reason why we opened Morrison Kleeman about 14 years ago, because it had this feeling of Eltham back in the 80s and 90s, where there was all this vacant land. Builders are in there building homes, and there was such this influx of first home buyers moving, and that was what we had in Eltham in those days. But those other people, they've been there for about 30 years, and now they're moving, and now the new families are moving in those areas.
Yeah. Interesting. It's bizarre, and it's a bit depressing when you hear that those lots of land were going for so cheap.
If only we had a crystal ball.
Yeah, I know, exactly. And we were just saying, like as we said, a lot of builders got caught in the. It's still the same scenario. You can. I was saying to Don before that it's not a win every time with developments. Not a win every time. And I said builders. This whole thing with builders and developers, everyone thinks that they're rich. No, it's not. We don't win on every single project. You can't losses sometimes, and sometimes you have wins, and that's just generally what it is. We said the late 80s, early 90s recession. How do you feel that today with the interest rates, or not even today, interest rates have slightly gone down. There was kept up, Alana, this, kept up 3.6%, is that right?
Yeah, 3.6, 3.5.
3 point. Yeah. Okay. So it was maintained at that. They didn't decrease or increase the other day. How do you find what's the difference from today's interest rate hikes as opposed to what it was back in the 80s or 90s?
I suppose it's the loan ratio to what you're earning. So in my day it was like two or three times your salary. Now it's 8-10 times. So it's a lot different. Yes, our interest rates were 17-18%, but the amount of money we were borrowing and our wages was a little bit comparable to what it is today. For our young ones today, it's really tough because the interest rates have gone up, but the amount of money they have to borrow to secure a home now is very tough, and that's why it's changing. I mean, when back in the 80s we were selling, it was hard to sell a block of land under a quarter of an acre. And now look, it's 200, all those sizes now. So there's more intense living now.
And just the other day, they announced that first home buyers can 5% deposit. Have you noticed anything?
I'm worried about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a great scheme, but the thing is, a young couple borrowing $800,000 or something.
It's unbelievable.
And it's that they've got
It's
a home,
pressure.
but
It's too much pressure.
there's so much pressure there. And of course,
The way I look at it, I go, well, so yeah, exactly what you said, and the pressure on their shoulders to do that, then also have kids.
Yeah.
I always say this. I go, I think there's going to be a decrease in fertility rates. Have I said that right?
yes,
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, fertility rates, right? I don't want to stuff that up. A decrease in fertility rates.
Because cost of living.
And I think the statistics actually show that already. And then having that and the first home buyers, great incentive, but you need to buy something quite cheap for it to make it work. Otherwise, you're going to be carrying that for a very, very long time.
But I think it's like anything, I'm pretty sure all our parents thought that we would never be able to afford a deposit or to go and purchase. It's the same as our kids. You always sit there and think, how are our kids in the next 10, 15 years going to be able to find a deposit and find something?
Yeah.
But it's going to work on, yes, they're not going to be able to afford the Diamond Valley.
Yep.
And then you look at Doreen, back then you couldn't afford to live in the Diamond Valley 15 years ago, let's say, as a 20-something-year-old. So you moved out to Doreen because it was more cost-effective. Now Doreen, that's starting to have its
out of
increase
reach.
and,
Yeah, but as Peter said, we've got this good diversity of sort of houses around. So you've got, what would be on your cheaper scale in Doreen to your largest?
Well, it depends. A townhouse these days, like a 3-bedroom townhouse, you could get that for like $550, but then you've got to be able to have the body corporate costs involved in that as well.
Yes.
You can find probably a 3-bedroom. I just sold a 3-bedroom 2 living on Fossil Stone. Now that went for nearly $750.
And that beautiful 3-bedroom home on Hazel Glen Drive.
And yes,
built by Seabuilt.
Yes, the one on Glenshire. Yeah, that was a really.
Glenshire. Yeah,
yes,
you're
that
right.
was a really good result. So again, that was from someone who was renting in the area.
Yep.
And had missed out on so many properties and that's again going back to the old days of bringing buyers in your car and having that face-to-face contact.
Yep.
Because those buyers had missed out on so many and had just been lost in the system on databases. And again, face-to-face, you're taking them from here to there to everywhere, and then they bought that off market. So it's just then going back to being affordability, you then got to move out to the further areas.
There's actually a home in Doreen for sale for $15 million.
Yes, that's now under offer.
Is it?
Yes, I saw that the other day.
It's a beautiful property.
Yeah.
It's definitely not me buying it.
No. Or me.
But good luck to them.
Yeah.
That's good. And they better have like horses too.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Alana, you're probably good at answering this too. For anyone that's listening, the do's and don'ts of renting as well, or being an investor, I suppose, a landlord.
Yeah.
What to look out for at the moment. I mean, I can say that there's land tax.
Yeah.
The land tax is affecting investors actually wanting to buy in.
Yep.
Have you noticed any changes? Have you noticed things sort of starting to get better in that regard? Or can you give any tips for anyone that any investors that want to sort of get out and start their sort of investment portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're dealing with a lot of buyer advocates, probably more than what we have in a while. They're definitely more out and about and contacting us directly.
Yep.
In terms of, wanting to be a landlord, you've just got to make sure that your return of what you're potentially going to be able to secure on a weekly rent amount is going to be beneficial with what you're going to be spending on a property. Back in the day, I'm a landlord and I've had my investments for a long time now. And back in the day, a good investment was putting an extra $50 or $70 a week towards on top of that rent. Now you're putting, well over 150 more into to make up the rest of your mortgage. So you've just got to be really do your numbers in terms of what you want to spend and what's out there to what the return's going to be.
Yeah, and what's the long term? What do you want to get out of it long term is what you've got to answer
and
to.
that's the whole point. You don't want to buy a
why,
bigger land.
why do you want to hold it for 10, 15 years? Because that's what you'll have to be doing.
Well, you don't want to be a landlord even, 5 or 6 years ago just for 5 years. The whole point of having a residential investment is to have it long term, so it can have that equity. So down the track, it's going to actually give you something.
It's really changing. I mean, most of the landlords or investors live within 5 or 10 kilometres from where their investment property is. Most of them are mum and dad investors, and they might have put a little bit of money aside for their retirement, something to give their kids. And now there's so much disincentive now to be a landlord now, and now we've noticed a large reduction of our rent roll, where landlords just said, I've had enough. I'm just going to invest the money somewhere else.
Yep.
So
it's a real shame.
So it's good to give you a little boost for first-home buyers, but it's pushing up rents now, and it is making it really difficult now for rentals.
Yes.
And it's pushing prices up. And the thing is, we need to have incentive for people to get back into buy properties. And unfortunately, investors aren't very rare at the moment. We are finding, though, we're getting a lot of interstate investors now. We're getting people now who have never seen the property, put an offer in, and settle it, and it's the first time they saw it when they picked up the keys.
And interstate. Because it's so funny, because I feel that Victorians are going elsewhere.
Yeah.
So you just do the quick video walkthrough, send them the video.
Wow, unbelievable. Well, as you said, the incentives to get into your first home. My first home, hang on, let me get this right. I think I got almost, it was either $40,000 or $50,000, both state and federal incentive in my first home.
Yeah.
And back then, that was in 2010. That's a lot of money, 2011, 2010. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I don't even know whether it's like that now.
No.
So I'm not sort of up to date with that, but I don't think it's to
Look
that
at stamp
scale.
duty. I mean, on $1 million purchase is close to $60,000.
Yeah.
And the other thing we're finding now is the older generation, like my age, who've got a larger family home and they want to downsize. Well, the time they sell their home and it's probably built up a bit of equity as well too, and time the cost of moving, there's no disincentive for them to do that, because that's tying up these larger homes where young families want. So it's
and also there's been talk of taking away those capital gains tax from your actual personal home. Free of capital gains tax from your personal home. So I don't think that's going to happen. No. Surely not, because would just.
It wouldn't be.
It's not good at all.
No.
That's where people can make some money, and if they want to sort of be in there for a minimum of 12 months, then move on, and you can save some capital gains there. And if they took that away, that's a real shame. So Peter, you're probably good at answering this one. You've sold some beautiful properties in Kangaroo Ground. I mean Alpham. What are some other nice areas? Lower Plenty.
Lower Plenty, yes.
What has been a transaction that in the past that sort of stuck with you and you're sort of proud of, whether it was a beautiful property that you sold or even just a interaction with a particular buyer?
Well, I think just recently I valued a house over 30 years ago in Eltham, and they actually built the house back in the 70s. And they said, look, we're thinking about extending the house a bit small. And I said, show us the plans. And I said, do you love living here? He said, yes, we do. I said, well, if you love living here and the plans work, I think you should keep the house. So thank you. So about 10 years ago, a lady came into the office and said, you don't know me, but your next door neighbour, you advised them not to sell, was the best decision they ever did. Anyway, 6 months ago, the person in that house, he rang me and said, we want to sell now, and they're in their 70s now.
Oh, wow. So you gave him that information. So you went in there, and it's not as if you went in there and said, no, I want to sell your property. You should sell that right now. Sign on the dotted line. You gave him the...
Well, we always believe to give people the right advice.
Yeah.
And that's how Graham and I built the business, People give you their set of keys to entrust you to sell the most important asset. And when we started, our average sale price might have been around $120,000 or something. And we used to say, well, we treat every home like $1 million home, because that was a lot of money back in 91. But so give people the right advice, and And it's amazing this area in the Diamond Valley and Doreen area. It's amazing who knows who. Everyone's got connections with sporting clubs and schools, and everyone has a real estate story. And we always want to make sure the real estate story about MK is something that is worth passing on.
Yeah, that's good.
So, and we're only as good as the people we have working for us. And
that's so important.
And that's what the success of the business.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Graham and I worked hard, but a whole team. The company's grown because of the team. We never started the business to have 4 offices and 70 staff. We wanted to have a meal for our families. We wanted to have control of our destiny. And it just grew, and the right people came on board and encouraged them. So that's how it all grew. So to answer your question,
it's a culture. It's a Morrison Kleeman culture, and it's started from the start. And you guys have made sure that it continues like that. And I think that's the best thing, to have a very good culture. Alana,
especially.
You agree with that? So tell us, what opportunities or challenges do you see in the next, I don't know, it could be Christmas time. Have you seen things perk up a little bit with the property market slow down, or do you seem to think that things are going to kick on next year even?
There's a lot more buyers out and about now. Numbers they're becoming quite good coming through our opens over the weekends. There's multiple offers on homes now. There's not just, the one. So we're getting multiple competition. I feel like it's a bit of a funny time, we're busy, but springtime's usually that real crazy chaos.
I feel that it's really, these days, it's no different. It used to be the springtime sort of rush and get your garden intact and get everything, but it's sort of
my
all season
advice
round.
Always is that there's never a right time to sell. That's I've always gone by that method with clients, because a lot of people always want to wait till spring because it's nice weather, gardens are nice, but the mentality is so does every other vendor. So as a buyer, if there's 5 or 6 homes on the market in spring, they've got more to choose from.
Yes.
So therefore they're going to be more picky.
Yep.
And if you need to buy, you're going to have to buy whether it's winter, spring or autumn. It doesn't really make any difference.
See, I don't mind even midwinter coming into even a place like my home. If I was to sell it, I wouldn't mind selling it in winter because I'd put the fireplace on and it's a little bit more homey.
Competition, so it doesn't matter when it...
No, and that's it. Phil and I, when we sold your place, just before winter, there was buyers that were still out and about.
Yeah, that's right. All right, well, that's good. So where can we find Morrison Kleeman?
Well,
tell us.
Doreen, Eltham, Greensboro and Diamond Creek now.
Yep. So. Any more on the horizon?
Well, I think this area is just expanding, and obviously Donnybrook out that way. There's big growth areas through there, so that's like Doreen was 10 years ago. So I mean, that whole northern corridor. And we specialise in northeast suburbs, but we sell property. We've got a property in Richmond and South Yarra at the moment, so we're not tied down to the
beautiful.
Because in the old days of real estate, they would walk down the main street and with an ice cream, look at all the windows, pictures in the windows with the dead flies in the windows and all that, and they look at a house. But today the internet covers everything, so we can be anywhere.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's right. Peter, one real estate myth that you'd wish would go away?
Well, I think we're in a service business, and as you can see, I'm not a quick talking salesman. I'm a good listener. So I think to be a myth of you got to be a fast talking, smooth salesman. No, you got to be a good listener. And you got to provide great service, and if you can do that, you'll build up a long term career in this industry. So,
Alana, you?
Really
good answer, actually, Peter. Sorry. Communication. Yeah.
Without that, and it goes back to the face-to-face.
Yep.
Without having that, what have you got? Nothing.
Yep. Absolutely. And that's the way I work too. I'm always face-to-face. I want to meet someone face-to-face.
Yep.
I don't.
So it's like, when you need something done and you call
and if a face-to-face interaction doesn't gain their trust, right, then you got to look at, there's obviously other issues and there's other things around that are affecting that.
It's important to have all the tools and technology that we have.
I think it was when I was younger, I was like, if I was to meet someone face to face and they still didn't like me, I thought that I was the problem.
Yeah.
But it's like, now it's like, well, No.
Yeah.
There's obviously some other things as well.
Yeah, and trust plays a big part in it. I always say, you've got to always trust that agent standing at your front door
Yeah.
on a Saturday.
Peter, sorry, I cut you off. What were you saying?
No, I just say it's all good to have all the technology we have, but as I said before, it's the interaction with the client.
Yeah.
Spending time, building trust.
Yeah.
You can have all these lovely brochures saying how good you are, but to earn the trust, you've got to earn it and demonstrate it. So, and
it's not just in messages. It's not just behind a screen of social media. It's face to face and communication. Yeah. Hobbies, Peter?
Look, I've worked Saturdays for the last 50 years, so I really don't have any hobbies. I like, if I have a chance to sail, that'd be great. With my younger days with my boys, we went boating, skiing, things like that. But I love just spending time with my family, grandchildren now, so it's my hobbies now.
And footy team?
Again,
here we go.
I'm not a good football follower because, I think I've been to 6 football games in my life.
Right.
But I've always followed Melbourne.
Oh.
And, but I couldn't say I'm a really good Melbourne supporter because I've only been to a handful of games.
But where's your cheese platter?
Cheese?
Yeah.
No, it's in the back of
cheese
the Range.
Cheese platter. Did you go to the snow this year?
Yeah, no, I don't. But yeah, so I think the only game my father took me to football was in the 60s, and I think I saw Ron Barassi playing, so that's why I think why I followed Melbourne. So,
yeah. Alana, you?
I'm a D supporter.
Yeah.
See?
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Did I know that?
Yeah.
Okay,
we
go
haven't had a
D's.
cheese platter together.
Yeah, okay, good. Make sure you get good cheese though. Not just the cheap stuff that I'd probably get. No. Well, thanks a lot, Peter and Alana, for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
Hopefully for the viewers, you got a lot of knowledge out of this one. And make sure you like and subscribe and follow Morrison Kleeman. Yeah, Alana or Morrison Kleeman on Instagram and where? Facebook?
Facebook, Morrison Kleeman, and Instagram, Morrison Kleeman.
Yep.
And I mean, I've got my own
Alana
Instagram page. So, yeah.
Lovely. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Clint.